Former undercover cops of Reddit, what is the craziest thing you had to do to not blow your cover? I worked as a transcriptionist for a while. And I transcribed some tape taken off of body mics of undercover officers working a very notorious domestic terrorism case. It was crazy. They would sound like an absolute backwoods hill people lunatic while talking to their marks. Then later when talking to the other police officers, would sound all business and like a very professional person. My cousin was an undercover ATF agent. Anyway, they were trying to bust some guys for illegal alcohol distribution and were building a rapport by going undercover. My cousin doesn't take his ATF badge with him when he's undercover because if anyone ever saw it, he could get shot. Anyway, some hot-headed black and white cops came over and started harassing them. My cousin couldn't blow his cover. But pretty soon the police started getting physical and they beat crap out of my cousin and the guys he is trying to get evidence from. They take them all into the police station only to find out that my cousin is ATF. My cousin was pissed because cops aren't supposed to beat people up. He is currently filing a lawsuit against that police department. My friend who was an undercover cop said that multiple times he had to let himself be arrested to not blow his cover. Like when a sting was going down or whatever, instead of being like, hey, I'm a cop, he would get arrested along with everyone else. My friend used to be a state trooper. She told me about how she used to have to go undercover as a hooker to try to catch Johns. She didn't do so well, though. She was far too polite. So they all knew something was up. As a former correctional officer, we had a situation where a major police department planted a cop in the prison to get information on a guy they believed was orchestrating hits from inside the prison. The warden knew and I knew, by accident, but not a single other CO knew. Nor did any of the staff, including medical. And that's the way they wanted it. He went through receiving. He was categorized and placed. It was wild. He was there for a week. Got the info they needed and got him out. It didn't become public knowledge that he was undercover until after I had left, and it was a long while after as they were making a case. That was a surreal moment. My father worked for NSYS. He told me about an incident where his guys set up a sting to bust some drug suppliers who turned out to be local police setting up their own sting. They figured it out when they tried to bust each other. Edit, grammar. That's hilarious. I'm sure the real drug dealers in the area thought it was too. I know a guy who often went undercover as a junkie. He was committed. He'd stop showering for a while before a gig and piss on his tracksuit before going into work. He was so good that he managed to get the same dealer convicted twice in the space of a year and they never suspected he was the rat. He had multiple police records under different names too. One time a Homeland Security officer came up to my house undercover, flashed his badge and asked if he could come in. Once he was in, he pulled out a piece of paper with my neighbor's face on it. He asked if I had seen him around lately. When I asked what he did, and let him know I haven't seen him around, he told me what he was wanted for. Rape, child abuse, drugs, the whole lot. Turns out he raped his stepdaughter, and once he found out he was wanted he went back to El Salvador. I thought they only flashed their badges in the movies. But turns out, it's real. Not a former undercover cop, but I have a second-hand story about an undercover cop. So, this guy appears out of nowhere and befriends a relative of mine who was involved in illegal stuff. Dude was very friendly and just down to party. Had money. Paid for, product, everything. Were dropping on parties and even allegedly hooked up with hosts. Then he placed an order much larger than before. Few weeks later, relative of mine is arrested and is currently in prison. Craziest thing an undercover cop had to do to keep their cover? Buy drugs and narcotics. Not a cop but a guy my mom dated for a long time was. Older guy. In his 70s now. He was fresh out of the academy and at the Asbury Park riots. Sad scary it. And then was an undercover narcotics cop for 14 years during the 70s and 80s with the NJSB. He was Puerto Rican. And spoke Spanish. Was an ex-Marine. and became a state trooper. They utilized his ability to blend in with organized crime in the Latin community. He had to do coke in front of a bunch of dudes during a buy one night. And basically stuck his knife in and blew a mound up his nose. Then he started having a minor paranoia panic attack that they were going to find out he was a cop. Thanks to the gram of blow he just took to the dome, he was breathing heavy and went out for air. His heart was pounding out of his chest. Panicking over how to get out of it, one of the gangsters came outside to talk to him. He's ready to run or fight. Guy goes, man, I've never seen someone snort that much at once, man. You okay? He sighs a huge sigh of relief. And was like, yeah, I never did that much. I'm having trouble breathing, haha. The guy was really nice. Brings him a drink and they smoked a cig. Everyone is joking that he has the heart of a lion to take that much. He actually felt bad about locking that one guy up when it all went down. Think he said he tried to help him or get a reduced sentence or something. There are other stories. My dad did undercover for several years and talked about a meth head that he hung out with all the time and even babysat her kids when she went out to get high. This went on for several months while they were figuring out who the big dealer was and acquiring warrants. He grew a beard, had a fake ID, drove an older T car. Eventually they got warrants to bust a bunch of people in the drug ring, and he actually was part of the SWAT team at the time and was part of the group that smashed in doors and arrested her and a bunch of others in the area. He had to wear a balaclava to protect his identity when with the SWAT team. He said it was actually really difficult because he had become an important part of those kids' lives and was kind of attached to them, and now they had no mother and had to be taken to Child Protective Services. I never got to ask him more questions about this before he passed, but I have no idea how he balanced this crazy second life and then came home and acted like a normal husband and father in our family. Not very exciting, but a guy that worked with me was going to this biker bar frequently to get in with a gang, drug related. He didn't want to get hammered and do something stupid, so he would take his beers into the bathroom with him, dump out half and fill it with water. Drinking watered down beer is the real crime. That it sounds gross. I must have been 15 when one day the doorbell rang and I opened the door to two guys looking very much like real tough street guys. They showed me their badges and asked for my mum or dad. Turned out that they wanted to stake out a public playground behind our garden that was used by some drug dealers for their mules. People drinking large amounts of water and puking up little packages with some substance in it. There was a multi-story bank near the playground, but the bank didn't want anything to do with it. So they asked my parents whether they could set up a surveillance team on our terrace for a couple of days. My parents allowed it. And my mum prepared food for the guys all week long.